All right, let us begin. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to Torah Studies. All right, it's very exciting to begin our third series, season number 3 of 5786. And we're not beginning, it's not exactly the way we divide these classes, not exactly aligned with the Torah, the books of the Torah. We already started the third book of the Torah a few weeks ago, but this is our third of 4 series. We divide the 5 books into 4 series, and this is series number 3, our post-Passover series. Hope everybody had a great Pesach. It's wonderful to see everybody, and I think we're ready to get a kick started. Okay, so tonight we're going to focus on the double Torah portion that we're reading this week. Just so you know, a quick parenthetical thought: the Torah is typically divide into double Torah portions when we do not have a leap year. So, for example, a year like this, where it's not a leap year, there's only one Adar, which means that you're dealing with 354 days with the lunar calendar, and so you got to maximize. You got to get in all your Torah portions, and so we have a lot of them for the. You have a lot of Torah portions to squeeze in, not enough weeks, and so therefore we double them up. So over the next few weeks, we have a lot of double Torah portions. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to get someone in on the Zoom. 1 second. Hold on, everybody. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we have a double portion, Tazria-Metzora, and the theme of the Torah portions, by and large, both Torah portions are dealing with the affliction called Sarat, and this is a major theme of the Torah. A lot of ink, biblical ink, as it were, is spilled on the details. I would say, I guess, the mitzvah of Sarat. Sarat was a skin lesion. It is a biblically focused skin lesion in the sense that it's typically translated as leprosy, but it's not. It's not the dermatological leprosy. It's rather something else. It's a spiritual malady, which our sages say is induced by a number of sins. It could result as a number of sins, most famously lashon hara, speaking ill of someone else. And as a result, a person could be afflicted with Sarat. Sarat could be, good evening, good to see you guys, welcome. So Sarat could be afflicting the person in their skin or hair. It could also afflict, good to see you guys, it could also afflict their clothing. It might afflict their clothing. If you think that's I shouldn't have put in bleach with my blue t-shirt back in the day, you never know, that just might have been Sarat. So you have the lesions that could afflict the clothing and also the stones of the home. Back in the day, the stones of the home could also be afflicted with Sarat. Again, do we need mold remediation? No, we do not. We need to deal with this in the Sarat fashion. So it could afflict the human, it could afflict the clothing, it could afflict the walls of the home. And our sages tell us, this is all by way of introduction, our sages tell us that there are a number of orders in which this Sarat could appear. Number 1, it might appear on the home first to kind of give a general warning, like you got to get your act together and stop speaking negatively about others. So first afflicts the house. If you don't get the message, then it's going to afflict the clothing. If you still don't get the message, then it might afflict the actual person. So that is the order. I don't know if you would call it the order of events, but we might call it the order of events in which it could afflict. On the other hand, I've seen commentaries that say the other way around, that initially it afflicts the person's skin, and then you might want to cover it over and pretend like you don't have it, and no one's going to know about your indiscretions because it's not publicly broadcast. But then it afflicts the clothing. When you might say, well, I'll get rid of those clothing, I'll get other clothing. Sure. But then it hits the house. And at that point, yeah, it's like a big neon sign that says, look at this person, right, flashing. This person is not where they need to be. All right, the Torah details different types of tzarat. And when I say different types of tzarat, what I mean is different, it could be tzuras in different colors and different sizes and different shapes and different locations. And the protocol is that in generally speaking, the nega, the affliction or the potential tzarat, has to be diagnosed by someone who's an expert in the field, based on the halachot, the Jewish laws of tzarat, of this leprosy. And then they diagnose it, whether it is or isn't. Maybe it's just, some sort of skin anomaly of another form, right? Maybe you just need some Neutrogena and call it a day. It could be, right? It could be. So how do you know what you need, right? Maybe you need a doctor, not a Kohen. Now, Dr. Cohen could be that could be a very dangerous, in a good way, that could be a very good combination. You got a doctor who's a Kohen, you got a double whammy. So typically the way it works is you have an expert diagnose it, and if they say it's not tzarat, you go home, all is good. If they say it is tzarat, now you got a problem. Either it's definitely tzarat, in which case you have to immediately quarantine. They didn't wear masks back in the day. It wasn't one of those mass quarantines. It was it wasn't even a stay-at-home quarantine. It was a go outside of the camp quarantine. It was you gotta go michutz lamachna, outside the camp for a prescribed amount of time, usually about 7 days, upon which it's reassessed. Is it growing? Is it shrinking? What's the status? Is it staying the same? And depending on what's going on, you might need another round of quarantine. It might be up to 21 days, but ultimately, when all heals, then the individual is readmitted back into the camp. When I say camp, it's because the laws were taught when the Jews were encamped in the desert, and they were encamped around the tabernacle in a very interesting way. The Mishkan tabernacle was in the middle, and the tribes, the priests and Levites were right around, encamped around on all four sides of the tabernacle, and around them were the 12 tribes. So bottom line is, when the quarantine period is over, after it's healed, the person is readmitted, they bring some offerings, and they are good to go. In a situation where the Kohen was unsure whether it was tzarat or not, then they might say, it's pending, come back in 7 days, and we'll take a look. Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? And then either go in quarantine, or the Kohen says it's fine. Okay, so...
Excuse me, what
yes.
kind of quarantine was there? I mean, they're in the camp.
No, they had to go outside the camp.
Yeah, well, how do you live outside the camp?
I hope you are not afraid of the bears.
Right.
Basically, you are on your own. You are outside the... Ramon, good to see you.
Did they not have basically a camp outside the camp, because there would be a number of people
I hear what you're saying. Did they have a camp outside the camp where all of the tzarat folks... Good to see you. Welcome back. Where all the tzarat folks would hang out? I don't know. I guess it depends on how popular the tzarat quarantine space was. If there were enough people, maybe they, maybe they created a bit of a settlement outside. But it wasn't. It was actually meant to be badad. It was meant to be in solitude. It was meant to be in a little bit of confinement. And we'll speak about that later tonight as far as what the positive purpose of that quarantine was. It wasn't to hang out and gossip more, if you know what I mean. It was to be isolated away from people. So even if you wanted to gossip, guess what? You can't. You can't. And by the way, if you think that gossip, who anymore? I remember there was a show called Gossip Girl. Remember that show? I'm not saying did you watch it. I'm saying do you remember the title? Gossip Girl, right? It's literally a show about gossip, I think. At least that's what the title is about. So the point is, tzarat was not fun. It wasn't a positive experience. It was, you could say, a consequence or punishment for, violating God's commands in the Torah, and that's what happened. Just so you know, we don't have it today. And you might think, well, if it's a thing that if you gossip, you get tzarat, why don't we get it anymore? So the mystics explain, this is not the direction of the class. I don't mind giving you the answer right away. Usually I'll make sure you get the answer at the end of the class. That's how we roll. But this time, because it's not the actual class. So basically, the mystics say that back in the day, when the people were on a very, spiritual and holy level, so any type of indiscretion would show up on the skin. As opposed to a generation that's lower, where the negative is more ingrained within the person, it doesn't show up on the skin because it's not just skin deep. It's all the way. It's permeated more throughout the person. Just to explain what I mean, imagine somebody is on a super healthy, clean diet, and then they have something that's not so healthy. You know what's going to happen? Their skin might break out. But what happens if that's the norm? The body adjusts to it, right? So our bodies have already adjusted, as it were, not in a positive way, to the negativity. Therefore, our skin doesn't break out with it. Back in the day, they were pure inside, and so it affected them on the outside. I hope that makes sense. By the way, another interesting anecdote about Tzaraat, it says, and Rashi points this out based on the Talmudic and Midrashic understanding, that back in the day when the Tzaraat would afflict their homes, so part of the way of curing that would be to actually, if it was real full-blown Tzaraat, they would actually have to remove those stones from the home and replace them with different stones. And I know what you're thinking. What if the house comes down? Well, you have to be careful, because if there's too many stones, then you have to actually demolish the home and then rebuild it. That's actually a possible thing. In fact, back in the day, they used to sell Tzaraat insurance. I'm kidding. That was a joke. This is way before the insurance agents jumped in. But imagine that. Imagine a Tzaraat insurance. That would be quite the policy, right? Imagine, in case of Tzaraat, let's cover this home. Not literally with Tzaraat. Yes.
Was Tzaraat common during the, or still a thing during the temple periods?
I believe so. I believe so. What the sages do say is that when the Jews in the early years, when they first were went into Israel, so Tzaraat would afflict the homes. They would take out the stones, and they would find behind the walls, because in ancient homes they had double walls. They would find hidden behind the walls or in the wall treasure that the Arameans, the Amorites, not the Arameans. That was Lavan. The Amorites, the Amori, not the Emory. That's a university here, right? So the Amorites, that's what they were. They hid treasure, and the Jews found it with its Tzaraat, which shows that even a cloud has a silver lining, and even a punishment has an upside. But today we're going to look at something else. Very fascinating, and that is the role of the Kohen. I made a joke before about, do you need a doctor or do you need a Kohen? And if you have one who's both, that's great. But in all seriousness, we're going to deal with the role of a Kohen tonight, and look at the interesting and unique role and purpose that the Kohen plays in this entire saga. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me pull this up here. All right, Ramon, if you don't mind, please read text 1a. This is from the biblical verse.
If a person has a lesion called Se'ed, Sapachat, or Baharet on the skin of their flesh, and it forms a lesion of Zaharat on the skin of the flesh, it should be brought to Aaron the priest or one of his sons, the Kohanim. Okay,
so let's break this down. First of all, we see that there are multiple types of lesions, Tzaraat, lesions on the skin. Se'et, Sapachat, Baheret, these signify different colors, different shades, different sizes, different depths of the lesion. Either way, and the Torah gets into detail about how to treat each one. Bottom line is, who do you go to? Who are you going to call? If there's something strange on the skin, not Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? You're going to call Aaron the priest. Now, what happens for all time when Aaron is no longer around? It's just, this is the way of the Torah telling us at that time. Aaron was the high priest, and his sons were the other priests, so it's just saying you got to go to a Kohen. The Mishnah, however, clarifies something very, very important. Text 1b, Ramon, please read this one as well.
Everyone who is trained is fit to examine a blemish. However, authority over proclaiming one impure or pure rests with the priest. The experts instruct the priest to declare one impure, and the priest proclaims impure. Or the experts instruct the priest to declare one pure, and the priest proclaims pure.
So the Mishnah here is dealing with a very interesting case. What if you have one Kohen, or maybe even a few Kohanim, but they're not experts in the various rules and regulations of the tzarat lesions? Meaning, what if they're just ignorant, the Kohen, whoever your Kohen is, just doesn't know, straight up does not have that awareness of what it should look like or shouldn't. But you have someone else who's a scholar, but not a Kohen, who does know. So what do? So you first go to the expert. You go to the scholar. You go to your tzarat expert. And then the tzarat expert says either yes, tzarat, impure, or no, tzarat, you're fine, you're pure. But this person, this expert, can't be the one to proclaim it. They have to tell the Kohen, and the Kohen has to utter the words either impure or pure. Are you with me on this? Yes? If a Kohen knows the laws, great, go to the Kohen. If a Kohen doesn't know the laws, you first go to someone who knows the laws, who then tells the Kohen, whispers in their ear, say impure, impure, say pure, pure. And then the Kohen is the one who actually has to pronounce it. It's a very weird thing.
So it doesn't imply that, priests had, medical knowledge.
Correct. The priest might, and it's not even medical, it's also the technical laws of, the halachic laws of how big or the color or the shape or the placement, it either is or isn't tzarat. That's a whole, there's like pages and pages of study of details on that. So what if you have a Kohen who's not proficient, not an expert in these laws, but now you got to deal with it. So you get someone who is an expert, even if they're not a Kohen, but then they tell the Kohen what to say.
Well, okay, so would a Kohen not be well versed in the law?
It's possible. It's possible.
Leviticus is for them.
But let's give an example. So text 2 is a great example. All right, so give me 1 second. Dasi, please read. Hold on 1 second. Let me get this up first. Please read text 2. Text 1c. This is Maimonides in his Mishnah Torah Laws of Impurity imparted by Tzarat, who explains the extent of how far this law goes.
Even if the Kohen was blind or a minor, the expert would tell him what to say, and the Kohen would quarantine, release, or isolate the patient.
You see that? What happens if the only Kohen around can't see? What do you do then? How can the Kohen diagnose the tzarat if they can't see? Or what if they're a minor? And let me explain what that means. Minor meaning below the age of majority, i.e. in Jewish law, below the age of 13. In which case, you might be a Kohen, you might even be an expert, but you can't really be an expert. You're not legally an expert because you're not of age of majority. You might think you know the law, but you don't actually know the law. So what do? You go to an expert. And by the way, in the Hebrew for expert, we keep on saying expert, the Hebrew is chacham. You know what chacham means?
Wise.
The wise person, not the wise guy, that implies something else. But the wise person means the expert, the one who knows these things. So you go to the one who knows, who then tells the Kohen, who might not be able to see, or might be a kid, what to say, and then upon that pronouncement, the person is either quarantined or released, or isolated, etc. It sounds like the same as quarantine, but based on that proclamation, that's what the person would do. So what's interesting, again, I hope that the interesting point is coming out. The Torah says, go to the Kohen. Halacha says, what happens if the Kohen doesn't know the answer? So then you go to an expert who then tells the Kohen what to say, but bottom line is the words impure or quarantine or hold, whatever, like pending, that has to be uttered by the Kohen.
So I'm a little confused about something.
Yeah.
I feel like 1b implies that the Kohen's opinion is almost like a rubber stamp on it. It's something like, the expert decides it, the Kohen is just there to back it up. But
Sure.
1c seems to, based on what you said, imply that, well, actually, the Kohen's opinion does matter enough to the fact that, they can't be a child, even if they're an expert.
Okay, good.
They also have to check as well.
So I think to clarify it, it's like this. Ideally, the Kohen should know the law. And you should go to the Kohen, who then looks at it, gets the law right and makes the proclamation. It's a one-stop shop. I should have probably clarified, we're dealing with a very anomalous case, a very strange case. What happens if you're very limited on the Kohanim or the Kohen who's around.
Yeah.
And the Kohen who's around either doesn't know the law or might be a minor or maybe can't see in the first place. So then what do you do? In that case, what do you do? So in that case, you bring in an expert. And the expert says, look, here's the deal. I know the law, this is the deal. But the expert can't make the proclamation. It always has to be proclaimed physically, like uttered by the Kohen. And that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Why? That makes no sense, yeah.
How is the minor Kohen allowed to actually proclaim it? Like, nowhere else would a not bar mitzvah yet be actually allowed to do something or say something for other people.
Right. That's the extent to which the proclamation has to be uttered by a Kohen, even if the only one around is a minor. The minor Kohen's got to be the one to say it. It's kind of crazy. Meaning we don't trust them with the law, but they have to be the one to say it. It's like a bit of in this case, it's a rubber stamp. Typically, we're not looking for the rubber stamp. We're looking to go to a Kohen who knows the law, who knows what he's talking about. If there's no Kohen around that fits in that criteria, then you go to an expert who then tells the Kohen what to say. Okay, so this leads us, so the obvious question is, why? If the Kohen knows what he's talking about, great. But if the Kohen doesn't, then why are we involving the Kohen in this rubber stamp situation? Just cut out the Kohen. If the only Kohen around can't see, well then just let it go. Just the Kohen won't be involved. We'll just deal with it else. Why does the Kohen always have to be involved? Text number 2 is Rashi. Dasi, please wait, did you just read? No.
Well, I read 1C, but I think
Oh, you did read 1C. Okay, you know what? All right. If you don't mind, read text 2. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up. Please read text 2. This is Rashi on our Torah portion of Leviticus 13.
it is a divine decree that the authority to pronounce the purity or impurity of a lesion rests with the Kohen.
This is very important. Look at the language of Rashi. You know what it means when he says it's a divine decree? You know what that means? What does that mean to you? Oh,
God said so.
and?
It's a chok.
Exactly.
It's a what?
Chok. It's a decree, meaning
Okay.
it's not going to be a rational thing. You're not. Rashi's telling us straight up. Yeah. Rashi's telling us clearly. Don't spend too many brain cells trying to figure this one out. You're not going to be able to understand it. It's simply a divine decree. It's almost like, why did God say, and I've used this example before, not to mix wool and linen in your garments? No, it's not because it's a fashion faux pas. It's just because it's a straight up divine decree. It's a chok. There are mitzvot that make sense. There are mitzvot that are, rational, meaning like do not kill, do not steal, that sort of thing. Protect, the family sanctity. These mitzvahs make sense. And then you have mitzvot that are testimonials, like, we observe Passover and we observe Shavuot and Sukkot, and they're testimonials, and that makes sense as well. And then you have mitzvot that make no sense, even after they've been told to us. And, don't mix wool and linen. And why? And just because I said so.
Which is to say they don't have a reason.
Right, and that tonight we're actually going to explore this reason also. But at the core of it, it's a divine decree, which means you don't stress too much about it, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense. Bottom line is we do it because God said so. And so Rashi says the involvement of the Kohen is a divine decree, which means that even if there's no qualified Kohen to actually rule on the matter, a Kohen still has to proclaim the matter, either kosher or not kosher, pure or impure, because that's what God said. God said we need a Kohen to get involved. Does that make sense? Yes? I don't know if it makes sense, but it's the divine decree, as much as that can make sense. But tonight, as Ramon just suggested, what we're going to do is, knowing that it's a divine decree, we're still going to try to find some meaning and significance to the involvement of the Kohen. Why is a Kohen a necessary ingredient in the proclamation of the nega tzarat, of this lesion, one way or the other? Why does the Kohen need to be involved? And so our first stop on our journey, will be the Sefarno. Rabbi Evadia Sefarno lived in the 1400s and 1500s. So he says something phenomenal. Scott, if you don't mind, please read text 3a, the Sefarno.
By their mouth, every controversy and lesion will be judged. Priests who served on the court for generations developed an expertise in human attitudes and human nature. Thus, they could often identify and bring the guilty party to light by examining their ways and exploits.
All right, let's pause here for a moment and break this down. What is, and I turn this back to you, to everybody who is studying this, who everybody is reading this text. Tell me in your own words, what is the Sepharnos saying? Why is a Kohen involved? What's the rationale? We know Rashi says it's divine decree. Don't stress too much about it. It just is what it is. God said so. But you and I might be wondering, what is the rationale? Help me out here, guys.
So this seems to be implying that the priest would, in fact, by virtue of being a priest, actually have expertise in these sort of things.
What's the expertise? By virtue of what?
Religion and morality and like what sin they did.
Yeah, but I mean, what makes them uniquely qualified?
Their expertise in human attitudes and human nature.
Good. So, and why do they have an expertise? And sorry for asking obvious question, but why do they have an expertise in human attitudes and human nature? Because they served on the court for generations. So this is a very important idea. The priests were involved in the justice system. The priests are involved in din and in mishpat, in the courts. They were the tribe of Levi. They were the primary teachers, the primary scholars. They were involved in the justice system. They were not necessarily all of the justices on the Sanhedrin, on the high court, but they were very much involved in the legal system, and therefore.
They had experience.
They had experience. But what type of experience? Experience, as he says, the Sepharnos says, they had an expertise in human attitudes and human nature. When you're a judge, it's very, I mean, sometimes it's black and white, but very often there's shades of gray. And it becomes very tricky to get it right. You have to know what motivates human beings. You have to know where they're coming from, and discern testimony. Are they lying? Are they not lying? And even if someone's guilty, there's a skill in understanding the nature of their guilt, maybe why they did it. Are you going to find their justification? Are you going to go easy on them? Are you going to throw the book at them? And so a Kohen is someone who's uniquely qualified to do all this judging of human beings, the judging of what a person did and what they did wrong. And so what is Tzarat? Tzarat is a lesion. And it either could be pure or it could be impure. Meaning either this person can go home or they're going to have to go outside the camp. And as we said before, that might not be a very fun experience. And so if you're the one to judge, in essence, whether you get to go home to your family or whether you have to go now into not really solitary confinement, but whether you're going to be sentenced, as it were, banished outside the camp, that's a heavy weight of justice and judgment, and that is uniquely designed to be the role of the Kohen. As we'll see soon, there's a deeper reason why the Kohen was uniquely suited for this. But let's first look at another commentary, the Divrei Dat, who is a modern Talmudic scholar, and Rabbi Yair Moshe Wolf. He writes something also very interesting in text 3b. Scott, please read this one as well.
The afflicted were required to come to the priest so that the priest could determine which sin they were guilty of. The priest would then urge and guide them to repent.
So here we go. Thank you very much for reading that. The Rabbi Wolf here in text 3b says, you know what the role of a priest was? Not just to determine whether they're guilty or not guilty, meaning, whether this is tzarat or not tzarat, meaning but specifically which sin they're guilty of. I mentioned before that there were 7 sins that could bring about tzarat, and they are gossip, as we discussed, murder, taking an oath in vain, immorality, arrogance, theft, and stinginess. According to the Talmud, those are the 7 sins. I'm not going to call them 7 deadly sins, but these are 7 leprous sins, if you will. And the priest that had experience in justice and judgment was able to determine and ascertain which sin the party might have been guilty of, and then could prescribe for them not just the quarantine, but a specific path of tshuva, of repentance and repair, to kind of fix the problem, to fix the blemish that was afflicting the person. Does this make sense? So we asked the question, why the Kohen? What is the role of the Kohen? And I hope the answer is coming into focus. Now, we're not at the core depth of the answer yet. We have still several steps to go in this. But the first approach to this answer is to say the following. Look, the priest was someone who was skilled in justice, was skilled in judgment, understanding human behavior, understanding what makes, what drives human motivation, what drives human beings. And so the priest could say whether the person actually was guilty of in the sense of deserving tzaraat or maybe not. And if yes, what specific indiscretion were they guilty of, so as to understand how to fix it, because you can't fix it if you don't know where the problem is. If you have a check engine light on in your car, right, and you don't have one of the...
My car's transmission has problems.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry. I hate to use an example close to home. But imagine the check engine light goes, bing, it goes, oh, great. Oh no. So what do you fix? Could be 1,000 things wrong. So what do?
Car doctor.
You go take it to a mechanic, or you have one of those readers. You know those things? You plug it into the little thing, and then it tells you the code. Because if you don't have the code, and then you know what's wrong. The Kohen was the little thing. Was the reader. The Kohen's like, I see what's going on. The Kohen would ask questions, right? I'll look at your skin also, but tell me about your life. What's going on in your life? Yeah, how's it going? What's going on? The Kohen would have a personal conversation. And in doing so, the Kohen would say, okay, here's what's going on. Here's the trouble. Or maybe you're fine, you're good, go home. Enjoy your life. Or the Kohen would say, here's the problem. And here's what you need to fix. The Kohen was not just a doctor. The Kohen was a therapist. The Kohen was like getting into the person and understanding what's making them behave as they were. This is like the ultimate healing. It's not just healing the skin, it's healing the soul. Make sense? The question, I didn't even wait for the answer. I'm assuming it makes sense. The question still is, why the Kohen? So, because they were involved in justice and judgment and understanding human beings and motivation. Sure. But why the Kohen? Okay, so they have experience, but why? What makes them uniquely qualified for this? And so now we get to the real answer. I said real answer. Now we get to a deeper answer and a deeper approach. What is the hallmark of a Kohen? What is a Kohen known for?
The sacrifices?
What else? Good. So offering sacrifices. What else? What is the hallmark of the personality of the Kohen? A Kohen is someone who is filled with...
Ahavas Yisrael.
That's right. That's right, Mom. Mom, you're a daughter of a Kohen. A proud daughter of a Kohen. A Kohen is someone who is... The hallmark of a Kohen is love. In fact, in the blessing, we just had the holiday of Pesach, Passover. And throughout Pesach, there were multiple opportunities. Here in the diaspora, 4 opportunities to be blessed by the Kohen, or the Kohanim, the priests in plural, after toward the end of the morning service, or the Musaf service. And the blessing that the priests say before they bless the people is that they were given the commandment to bless the people bi'ahava. Bi'ahava. What's bi'ahava? With love, or in love. You can't, and halacha says, Jewish law says, if a Kohen has beef with someone in the community, you can't go up there to bless. You have to have complete love for the people, or else don't even go up there. Don't go in duchen. Don't go up to the platform and bless the people. You have to be coming from a place of pure love. It's an amazing thing. A Kohen is all about love. Who was the first Kohen? Aaron. And what's his hallmark? Love. We'll see soon a text that talks about Aaron and his type of love. He loved, Pirkei Avot, ethic, I can't hold myself back. Pirkei Avot says, he loved peace. He pursued peace. He loved creatures. He loved everybody and brought them close to Torah. He was a lover of people. He loved people. So
when you bless your grandchildren,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
priestly?
That is the priestly blessing.
Yeah.
We're co-opting it.
Yeah.
When we bless our kids using the priestly blessing, The understanding is, although I'm not a priest, I'm still gonna borrow this phraseology because it sounds
really
good.
nice. I
Yeah,
didn't quite
yeah.
realize that.
But it's got to be with love. You can't bless if not. What do you? If you don't love, what are you blessing for?
Yeah.
You say, I wish you all good things and God's grace and God's countenance should shine, and I hate you. What kind of? It's insane. Why would you do it? You don't like the person you're blessing them. The blessing is predicated on love. The blessing doesn't work if it's not predicated on love. So what's the point of all this? We're about to get to an unbelievable point. Who is the right person equipped to be able to tell someone the harsh news that you're going to have to go into quarantine and get your act together? Who is the one to deliver that news? Not only to break it to them in a nice way, but to really encourage them to do the work to repair what needs to be done. Who is it? The Kohen. Why? Because it's coming from a place of love, and this is going to be tonight's lesson. If you want to rebuke, if you want to critique, if you want to, I'm using air quotes, I don't know why, but if you want to criticize effectively, there's one prerequisite. Make sure it's coming from love. You know, there's a beautiful phrase that I love. No one cares what you know until they know that you care. Right? You might be the expert. Oh, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. Whatever. Thank you very much. Right? Thank you very much. Like it's great. Why don't you write that down and place it in that bin over there in the corner? It's like, I don't care. But if I know that you care about me, and then you offer some correction, now I'm listening. You have a mentor. You have a mentor that really cares about you. You have a parent who cares about you. You have a teacher who cares about you. And then they give you some correction, you're listening. Someone who doesn't care about you, doesn't like you, tells you, you're doing this wrong. It's like, yeah, of course you're saying that because you're annoying. Because you're trying, you're always critiquing me. Like, but if I know that you love me, now I'm going to listen. So who's the one? As we kind of build up to we're going to read all this inside. Who's the one who's qualified to tell someone, listen up, I hate to break it to you, because I love you. I love you, man, but you got Sarad. This is legit Sarad. Tell me what's going on. Let me help you. Who's the one that's qualified for that whole process? The Kohen. And if the Kohen's not an expert, you got to get an expert, but then the only one to break the news, the only one qualified to break that news is a Kohen. And even a kid Kohen, hopefully, is coming from a place of love and care and devotion. Let's take a look at text. Oh, it's literally right here. Unbelievable. It's right here. I'm freestyling it, and meanwhile, it's the very next text. All right, text number 4. Mira, please read this one.
Be among the disciples of Aaron, the high priest, a lover of peace, a pursuer of peace, a lover of all people, who drew them close to the Torah.
I love this. It's not just, he wasn't just a man of peace, he loved peace. He not only loved peace as a value, he pursued peace, meaning he was actively pursuing peace. And by the way, I'm sure you've heard this before, but famously, how did Aaron pursue peace? If two people were fighting, what did he do? He went over to one party and said, hey, listen, I know you're fighting with this guy. I just spoke to the other guy. He feels terrible about it. He really wants to make amends, but he's so embarrassed because of the whole fight, and he feels so bad. He's probably not going to approach you, but you should just know he feels really sorry about what's going on. And then he went to the other guy and said, I spoke to the other guy, and he feels really sorry. He feels really bad, but he's embarrassed, and et cetera, et cetera. And so the next time these two met, they just hugged it out. And the Rabbi asks in one of his talks over the years, he says, what, Aaron was lying? And by the way, sometimes we say, yeah, you're allowed to lie for this, you're allowed to bend the truth for the sake of peace. He says, no, this is not even bending the truth. What, you think deep down someone really wants to be in a fight? Show me a person who's in a fight for even 40 years. Do they really want to be in the fight? Or they're just too proud to stand down from the fight, right? It's definitely option B, not option A. Someone who's like, oh, I don't speak to that person, I haven't spoken to them in years, and usually family. It's not because you actually have the beef. It's because you don't know how to get out of it at that point. You've been fighting so long, you don't even know how to stand down from it. One of the first, there's a guy, this is going to be a tangent, but hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the tangents. There's a podcast, and you can look it up, and it's marvelous. It's called Heavyweight. It's with a guy named Jonathan Goldstein. And in case you're wondering, yeah, he's Jewish. Jonathan Goldstein, right? I know you were shocked by that. Jonathan Goldstein is from Montreal. And by the way, in his podcasts, I've heard over the years him talking about having, around his bar mitzvah, he got he's not like religious, but he got into religion, got into Judaism, and he talks about how there was one Sukkot, and he doesn't say it exactly, but as a well-qualified listener of podcasts, I know what he's talking about being in a sukkah, and there being a farbrengen, and saying l'chaim, and this he's described. I'm like, this guy must have been connected with Chabad. And in another podcast, he goes to interview his former rabbi, and who is it? None other than Rabbi New's brother from Montreal, Rabbi Moshe New from Montreal. That is legit, and don't remember which episode. Jonathan Goldstein, he has a formula for his podcast. It's about resolving unresolved issues. Basically, two people were fighting and he'll solve it, or somebody was offended by someone but never said anything, or someone did something and the other person never understood whatever it is. He resolves things that were left unresolved. What was the first podcast? What was the first one in the series? What got him started? It was his father. Jonathan Goldstein's father did not speak with his brother for like a decade. And they weren't officially fighting. They were like quasi-fighting. It was like, because one person didn't invite them to a bar mitzvah, and then the one didn't invite them to, it was like, it became a thing. So he goes to his father, and of course he's recording. His father, would you want to get together with your brother? He's like, I don't want to get together. Because he doesn't want to get together with me. He's like, no, what? He's putting together the two parties, and they get together, and it's all recorded, and they have a lovely meeting. They have a lovely experience. And it works out fine. And you realize, like, two people that are fighting and not talking to each other, how much of that is real? And how much is that just inertia? How much of that is just, an object at rest will tend to remain at rest until there's a force that pushes it out of that, that status quo, and it just takes some time. Aaron was the force that disrupted the status quo. He was the disruptor. The love disruptor. I don't know if that sounds right or wrong, but he was the love disruptor. He would go to one party and say, the other guy really wants to make amends. He doesn't know what to do. He's like so embarrassed. They went to the other, said the same thing. And when they met, the ice was broken. It was thawed. They said, let's schmooze. Let's get over it. What's the point? He really loved people. And so who is the type of person? Who's the prototype? Who's the right person to diagnose tzaraat? Are you guilty of sin? Do you need to be quarantined? Do you need to go into a timeout? Who's qualified? A Kohen. No one else. Yeah, you and I can all be like a Kohanim, but the point is, it had to be a Kohen. Text number 5. I love this. This is the Kli Yakar. Toba, we're up to you. Please read text number 5.
A person cannot become pure except through a Kohen, for the sin of gossip is what causes strife, discord, and division between siblings. Therefore, Aaron, who embodied the trait of peace, must come and heal this. He was a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace. The
Kli Yakar takes what I just said to the next level. What was the typical reason for tzaraat? What was it? Gossip. What is gossip? When you gossip about Lashon hara literally means speaking ill of someone else. Because you love them, or because you're not really thinking about the love in the moment? Which one? I'm sorry for asking obvious questions tonight, but you're not feeling the love for them in that moment, right? If you felt the love, you wouldn't be gossiping about them. You don't say hurtful things about someone who you love. And so who's the one to help the gossiper heal? Someone who loves everybody, a Kohen. A Kohen is the right person to take this person under their wing and say, hey guy, hey buddy, let's start loving people and not gossiping about them. Not even gossip. Lashon hara is not just gossip. Lashon hara is negative gossip. Let's not speak ill of others. Let's love them. And so who better to mentor, who better to model, who better to teach the concept of love and positivity than a Kohen? And that's why a Kohen has to do it. All right, let's keep on moving through the text. There's some beautiful ideas here, and then we're going to get to the big takeaway. Actually, there's a few takeaways. All right, text number 6a, the Rikanati, from the 1200s. Here we go. The priests from the tribe of Levi approach, because with kindness iniquity is expiated. All right, let's go. Let's see what he explains. Those are two verses from Devarim, Deuteronomy, and Proverbs. The priests oversee judgment, as we said before, because they mitigate judgment with goodwill. The Torah determined that by their mouth all controversy and lesion will be judged, because the priests who dip their hands in the proverbial waters of kindness ensure that those judged guilty are not treated with severity, meaning even if you're guilty, we're going to judge you kindly, meaning we're going to make sure that we're not going harsh for no reason, that the punishment matches the problem and corrects the problem. Let's go 6b, and here's how the Rebbe puts it, again, in a beautiful way. We're just developing this idea further and further about the absolute imperative of the role of the Kohen in all of this. The priest's mission is to bless God's nation Israel with love, bi'ahava. A priest is a person of kindness who blesses Jews lovingly. It is precisely because he is a person of kindness that the Torah entrusts only him with the responsibility of sentencing a fellow Jew to your dwelling must be outside the camp, i.e. that's the quarantine. Let's continue next page. The verdict must indeed be based exclusively on the facts and the Torah law. This is why examination by an expert familiar with all the rules and types of lesions is critical. So that's an important point. It's not like the Kohen who loves people will just be like, you know what? You're fine. I love you. It's not about going easy on the person. However, the actual sentence must be issued by a priest, a person of kindness. Only the priest feels the full weight of issuing such a severe sentence against a fellow Jew. He will therefore spare no effort and thoroughly examine the expert on the nuances of the law and remind the expert of the court's equal obligations to convict and to exonerate. A court is not just about conviction, it's also about exoneration. If after this thorough examination the priest is convinced that he must declare the person impure, we can be sure that this is a true Torah verdict. We can also be absolutely sure that the priest will do everything possible to bring about this person's purification, meaning it's not just about the declaration of impurity, it's also about the healing. And this is so important. Look, when it comes to critique and criticism, it's easy to get lost in the punitive part of it. It's easy to get lost in the let me tell this story. There was a guy that I knew, still know, but also knew, who told a story that at his bar mitzvah, his whole family they were chazanim, they were cantors and Torah readers, and so when he was a kid, his bar mitzvah, he was reading the Torah, and typically you don't read it perfectly, and he made a mistake, and his uncle doesn't correct him. He says, first mistake. First mistake. Like in shul, when they call out the correction, he didn't call out the correction, he said first mistake. So, yeah, that hurt. And it stays with him till today. It's still traumatic. Is the objective to point out someone else's flaw? Or is it to correct? Is it to help? And it's very easy to tell. On the receiving side, on the recipient's end, you can typically tell whether someone cares about you or whether somebody just wants to get you, whether somebody really cares about you and therefore wants you to get things right. Someone says, hey, they come over. Okay, there's so many differences. I mean, what's the context of how you did it? Did you do it in public? Did you have the conversation in private? Did you point it out to them harshly or gently? Was it about the problem, or was it about, was it solution oriented? I mean, there's so many things that are hallmarks of these two varying approaches, but it all comes down to this core idea. What is your aim? What is your objective? If your aim is to find flaws, well, then you're just a critic. If your aim is to help, well, that's a completely different story. A Kohen is somebody who we believe, Torah believes, a Kohen is somebody who is uniquely empowered to be a helper, to be someone who helps others. A person that might have tzarad needs help. That's what they don't need to be punished. They don't need to be quarantined for the sake of quarantine. They need to be helped. They need to be healed. And who's uniquely gifted, who's uniquely poised to help? It's a Kohen. First of all, to make sure that no one unjustly gets quarantined. But number two, even if the person deserves the quarantine, then it's about understanding how the healing process can unfold. Does all this make sense? All right, let's get to some takeaways. We have about 5 minutes left. Let's get to some very important takeaways. This is going to be text 7a. I'll continue reading. So the Talmud says, the Mishnah says, one may see, 7a, one may see anyone's lesions except their own. And this is referring to a Kohen. A Kohen can observe and determine the status of someone else's tzarat. But what happens if the Kohen himself is afflicted with tzarat? Can the Kohen diagnose his own tzarat? You know what the answer is? No. One may see anyone's lesions except their own. You're not allowed to diagnose your own tzarat. You got to go to a different Kohen. So that's the simple meaning of the law. But a deeper reading of it is that a person sees the faults of everyone else except their own. Right? We always notice the flaws in the other guy. But the one person whose flaws we don't notice is our own, is ourselves. Right? By and large, we can point out any little flaw that someone else has. Oh, you don't do this right, you don't do that right, you should do it this way, you shouldn't do it that way. We have advice for everybody else. What about ourselves? We have a blind spot. We have a blind spot. Text 7b. King Solomon writes in Proverbs Mishlei, Va'al kol peshayim techasa ava. Love covers all transgressions. Right? It's the ultimate concealer. Right? I think that's a type of makeup. Right? A concealer. You conceal things. Right? What's love? Love is the ultimate concealer. It's like that filter on television, video. What I use on Zoom. I'm kidding. I don't. But like it covers over all the blemishes. That's what love does. And who do you love the most? Yourself. So think about this. Think about this. If love covers all blemishes, and therefore you're not trusted to diagnose your own tzarat because you'll say, no, I'm fine, because you love yourself. Well, what about if you're a Kohen and you allegedly are supposed to love everyone like yourself? So then what's the problem? Then how do you judge anyone's tzarat? Does that make sense? My question makes sense? If you're a Kohen who you would think loves the other person as much as you love yourself, and you're not qualified to judge yourself with tzarat because so then how could you judge anyone else? So let's keep on going with this. Let's keep on going and develop this idea. Text 7c. Text 7c, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rabbi, lived in the 17 and 1800s. He writes the following: it doesn't mean, when it says that love covers all the flaws, it doesn't mean that we're oblivious to our faults. On the contrary, we know ourselves better than others know us. They can only see our surface faults. We know our hearts, meaning we know our deepest, darkest secrets. So what does it mean? Instead, this means that our faults don't drive us to self-improvement. We continue nonchalantly as if we didn't notice them. This is because we love ourselves so much that our love covers up the faults we know about. The faults drown and dissolve in our great love for ourselves. It doesn't mean you can't see the faults. It means that you don't view them as being so bad, as opposed to someone else who sees them and says, wow, that's really bad, and that becomes very jarring for us. And that's why loving our fellow as ourselves means that you should treat the other with the same type of core love that you treat yourself. Just like you and I, the overwhelming feeling towards self is love, and then we also notice the faults, but we really love ourselves on a deeper level than the faults, so too we should extend that to someone else. But if that's the case, if that's true, then how could any Kohen judge any person and find the tzarat in them if you're always supposed to be looking at the good? So let's take a look at text number 8, which is again going to keep the question going, but let's keep on building on this. Rabbi Menachem Nachum Tversky of Chernobyl, from the famous, maybe he's the original of the famous Tversky clan. So Rabbi Menachem Torsky says the following: the Baal Shem Tov taught that truly righteous people with no faults whatsoever see no fault in others. Looking at others is like looking in a mirror. If our faces are sullied, we see sullied faces in the mirror. If our faces are clean, we see a pristine image in the mirror. What we are is what we see. That's a hot take. The Baal Shem Tov says that if you see a fault in someone else, you know who really has the fault? You do. Now you might ask the question, what are you talking about? With all due respect to the Baal Shem Tov, is that really the case? What, I can't objectively see a fault? Someone might be doing something wrong. I can't objectively see that without me having the problem? Let's continue. Text number 9, where the Rebbe explains the real way to see a fault. When we hear that a Jew did something inappropriate, God forbid, we must register only our responsibility to help them correct the problem, our obligation to mentor them pleasantly and appropriately and help them repent. At least this should be the primary aspect that registers. If we hear something not good about another, and instead of thinking of our duties toward them, we notice primarily their faults and how bad they are, it is ironclad proof that our face is sullied. The faults we see in others are reflections of our faults. Let me explain very quickly. Here's what it comes down to. If you see a flaw in someone else, and you get so stuck in the flaw that you can't think of it, you can't, like, I can't believe they did that. Who does that? Why are you so excited about that? Why are you so stuck in the problem? Because you're stuck in the problem. If you see someone's fault and your first thought is, oh, I can help them, it means you're not stuck in the problem. The reason why you're not thinking about helping the other guy, in a case where you're not thinking about helping them, is because you don't know how to help them. And you know why you don't know how to help them? Because you're also stuck in the same problem. If you had the solution, you would focus on the solution. If you're stuck in the problem, it means that you might be stuck in the problem. And so here's the point. Of course a Kohen can notice tzarat in someone else. Of course a Kohen can say, hello my friend, you have tzarat, let me help you. But that's because the Kohen is going to say, let me help you. But if the Kohen just says, ooh, you have tzarat, let me blog about this. Oh, so-and-so has tzarat. Can you imagine they have tzarat? That's a blemish in you, not in them. That's your gossip. That's you're excited that they had a problem. Then you're the gossip. Then you're the lashon hara.
No. Like, what about, say, someone like Bernie Sanders, self-hating Jews?
Let's not get political.
We're not going to stuff like that.
No, I'm saying I don't want to get political, but I'm just saying like
No,
this.
it's not political. I mean, it's...
No, I understand, but that's whatever. We're going to avoid. You're saying, what about somebody who's evil, right? Let's talk about someone. Let's think of an example of someone evil,
Yeah.
right? So if I notice an evil person, does that mean that I have the evil?
No.
No, it doesn't. But if I know it and I'm like, okay, so this has to be stopped, it has to be solved, we have to take care of it. If that's the agenda, great. It means that we're moving toward a solution, or at least we're trying to move to a solution. If I'm stuck in it and I'm like ruminating over it, like I can't believe it, and I'm stuck and I'm obsessed with it, well, then we have to ask ourselves the question, why the obsession? Why not the solution-oriented? Why the obsession? That's what it means. The example that the Rebbe gives is the children of Noach. Right, Noach after the flood, right, he drinks, he gets inebriated, he takes off his clothes, he's drunk, and his echam comes over and sees him, and instead of helping, he runs to his brother and says, Dad's naked in the tent. He's drunk and naked. And the brothers come and they turn their face and they cover him. A tale of two reactions. When you see a problem, what's your reaction? Is it to tell someone else about it? And to gossip? Oh, look what I discovered. Oh my gosh, you'll never believe it. Why? Why not help fix the problem? Why is it about spinning the problem into a greater thing? You know why? Because either we're stuck in it or we're not stuck. If you're stuck in it, then you don't even know how to get out of it. So what are you going to do? You're just going to make it bigger. You're going to make the problem bigger. You're going to call more attention to the problem. Why? Because you're stuck in the problem. If you can solve it, then you solve it. Because you're not stuck in it. That's what the Baal Shem Tov says. I want to conclude. It's already a little late, but we're still going here. There's so many good texts here. Every text is gold. By the way, I encourage everybody to get a book. They're on Amazon, $25. You get it straight delivered to your house if you like. It's the text here, such quality text. Rabbi Menachem Mendel Hager of Kosov writes the following text then. When a person is afflicted with tzara'at, they shall be brought to the Kohen. When a Jew stumbles, God forbid, the tzaddik immediately senses the blemish that was caused. Just as a person feels pain if one of his or her limbs is injured, so too the tzaddik feels the blemish of another Jew. For the Jewish people are like his own limbs. This comes from his deep love, closeness, and true oneness with them. That is the meaning of when a person is afflicted with tzara'at, they shall be brought to the Kohen. The Kohanim are the tzaddikim who instantly sense the failing and have the power to help repair it. And here we see that the goal and the purpose is not noticing it, not pointing it out, not blogging about it, but helping the other repair it. That is the role of the Kohen. That is the role of a tzaddik. That's the role of a leader. And just think about it in the context of parenting. Very simple context. Your kid comes to you with a problem. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? What's your reaction? Wow, look at the problem. I can't believe the problem. And they keep on magnifying the problem, or help them with a solution, right? A healthy parent says, hey, let me help you with a solution. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. A healthy therapist, right? A healthy doctor, a healthy mentor. I may have used mentor twice. It's all about solution oriented. It's all about solving the problem, not getting stuck in the problem. But what's the key component? Love. If you don't love, then sure, why not? Just then you're trying to magnify the problem because you don't love them anyway. But if you love, then you'll be solution oriented. I want to share one final story that I heard, and I feel like I'm going to mess up the details because I heard it a long time ago. But they tell a story about a fellow who sees his old school teacher, yeshiva teacher from years ago when he was in elementary school. And he goes over to, he sees him in Israel, maybe by the wall or something. And he says, Rabbi, it's good to see you. It's been, decades since I saw you last. I have to unburden myself and my guilt. The teacher says, what are you doing? Shalom Aleichem, nice to meet you, but what do you mean? He says, when we were kids in school, one day, someone stole he had something on his desk, and one of the kids, maybe a pocket watch, and one of the kids grabbed it, one of them snatched it. And you said to all of us the following. You said, here's what we're going to do, right? It's got to be returned. That's what needs to happen, right? If something's stolen, it's got to be returned. But here's the deal. I don't want any of you to see who did it. I don't want any of your classmates. I don't want any classmates to judge each other. So everyone should line up in a row, right? And close your eyes. And whoever took it should put it back on my desk, right? Everyone should basically close their eyes, and whoever took it, put it back on my desk. And when I say open your eyes, then you can open your eyes. Basically, he said, close your eyes so that no one sees who did it. So that no one should think negatively about the person who did it. And so the student said to the rabbi, thank you very much for doing that, because I was the one who took it. And you saved me from shame and embarrassment. I was able to return it without the fear of embarrassment of being the one to fess up to it. The rabbi said, I had no idea it was you. Because when I told you to close your eyes, I also closed my eyes. So that I shouldn't see, and I shouldn't judge, and I shouldn't have any, ill thoughts or feelings about any of you, any of the students. A real teacher, a real mentor, a parent, someone who loves the other and seeks their betterment. Sometimes correction is necessary, but correction from a place of love is very, very different than correction from a place of harshness. May we all be like the disciples of Aaron, whether you're a Kohen or like my mother, the daughter of a Kohen, or like me, the grandson of a Kohen, or not. It doesn't make a difference. Whether you're a Kohen or not a Kohen, we can all emulate, as Pirkei Avot says, be of the disciples of Aaron. Even if you're not a blood relative, be of the students of Aaron. Be like Aaron. The world says, at least 30 years ago, it used to say, be like Mike. Torah says, Michael Jordan, right? Torah says, Be like Aaron. Not Aaron Rodgers. Right? Be like Aaron. Aaron, the high priest. It may not sell the same amount of shoes, but it's a good way to heal the world. To heal the world with love, to heal the world, and to lift up each other, because that's what we need. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see you back. We have 11 more classes in the series, and each one is literally a gem. I do want to mention a few things before we close out, and I know we're up against the time. Number one, a week from tomorrow, we're beginning a brand new course. It's called For All Humankind. This is a phenomenal course. Jewish wisdom to heal the world. 4 sessions. Session 1, the message of Abraham. Number 2 is morality obvious. Number 3, educating children. Number 4, it will get better. Hope for the future. The world needs a lot of positivity. Judaism has it. We need to arm ourselves with the positive message of Judaism to help share it and spread it and make the world a brighter place. Please join me next week. Daytime classes, evening classes, in person, on Zoom. You can join every which way. If you miss it, it'll be recorded. And if not, I'll knock on your door and give you the class in person. I'm kidding. I will probably not do that. But everything other than that, I will do. So you can catch it. Also, if you are a lawyer, you are eligible to receive CLE credits. Not the CMEs for this one, but CLE credits for this course. I also do. So please join and sign up. It is a phenomenal course. Second announcement. What is that?
It's volume 3.
Volume 3, yes,
Okay.
that's the one. That's the Torah Studies book. Yeah, it looks like this.
Okay.
For those that are looking for the Torah Studies book, it looks like this. Match this image on Amazon. Okay, then final announcement for tonight, and then I'll let you. Ooh, maybe I have not a final announcement. Ooh, I just realized I may have an extra bonus announcement. Next is the Jewish jet. No, this is not about a new airplane that Elal is flying. This is about the skeleton racer. That's the guy that goes headfirst down a very slippery, icy track, 80 to 90 miles an hour. Jared Firestone, Florida boy. I know what you're thinking. Ice in Florida? I don't know. Anyway, he trained for years to represent Israel in the skeleton, going headfirst down an icy track. I'm sure there was an easier way, but this is what he did. Flag bearer in the Olympics. He's going to be speaking, sharing a story this Monday night. Phenomenal event. Don't miss it. One more surprise announcement. I've not shared this at all to anybody. I mean, maybe to some, but not publicly. Give me a quick moment. I'm working on, we even may have the date. The date is Jacqueline Saper was born and raised in Tehran, Iran, in a Jewish household, and is the author of the award-winning book, From Miniskirt to Hijab, A Girl in Revolutionary Iran. Her comfortable life ended in 1979, and she came of age during the Islamic Revolution and the Iran-Iraq War. Anyway, she's going to be speaking about her experience in Iran, growing up before and after the revolution, and sharing thoughts about what's going on today. This is her, for those that are wondering, and she will be speaking here. The date is, I want to say, one second, May 12th, whatever, sometime in middle of May. So stay tuned for more information about that. All right, I have reached my limit of announcements. Don't forget, sign up for all the above. Join us because it's amazing. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being part of it. And may love prevail.
I just kind of want
Thank
to
you.
add,
Thank you.
I'm reading a Omer and the Sphira.
Ooh,
right
nice.
now, and this week is Gevura, so and the book is talking about discipline with love, so this is exactly.
I want to repeat what you're saying, just to make sure that everyone heard it. So Dasi is saying how she's reading a book now because of the counting of the Omer, and every week has its own energy. The energy of this week is Gevura, which is severity. But the book is called, or the chapter is called?
Well, it goes by Chesed and Gevura and Gevura and whatever, each day.
The interconnectedness, right?
The theme running throughout each day so far is how to infuse discipline, whether it's for yourself or someone else, with love.
How to infuse love within your disciplines, that it's not harsh. Harsh discipline doesn't work. It just doesn't. I mean, you might get,
Fear.
yeah, fear, but you'll get like submission, or you'll get, no, maybe that's not a good word. You'll get compliance. But what's the point of that? Compliance? Yeah, so if you scare someone enough, they're going to do what you say. And? Great. They didn't learn anything. They're not changing. The moment that threat is gone, they're reverting. So like, what did you really do other than traumatize the other person? Right? So it's about loving discipline. Okay, good. Perfect. Perfect for the energy this week. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Richard, Mom, Kendra, Catherine, Caitlin, Sandrine. Sandrine, hey, good to see you. Have a wonderful week. See you guys soon. And of course,